Hey guys, it's Christy and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. Today we're going to be reviewing the new Too Faced Better Than Chocolate palette. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Alright guys, so today, like I mentioned, we have the new Too Faced Better Than Chocolate palette. This is the outer carton. It's almost got that soft touch matte feel to it, but just a little bit different. And on the back, this describes itself as an eyeshadow palette so deliciously exotic, buttery rich, and stylishly seductive, it'll have you falling in love at first bite. This cocoa powder infused palette features 18 ultra creamy, rich, and chocolatey shades and pops of deliciously bold candy color, velvety mattes, sugary shimmers, and melted metallics all work together in countless combinations to create the most naturally decadent looks you've ever experienced. Interesting. Very over-the-top description, but that's what they're telling us. So again, this is 18 shades. It is infused with real cocoa powder, which is interesting. This is also bulk made in the USA and assembled in the Dominican Republic. I searched all over the box, all over the inner packaging, and I cannot see shelf life details. This is the inner packaging, so it is their standard tin packaging, and it just opens up like so. Very pretty color story. So you can see I've already swatched this, I've already played with it. We'll get into some swatches at the end of the video, but this is what it looks like. It's very pretty. This retails for $69 Canadian, I believe about 55 US. Very expensive, so that's increased about $5 across the board. So I'm a little skeptical on Too Faced palettes just because their eyeshadow palette formulas are very inconsistent. A lot of their products are phenomenal, but their eyeshadow palettes are inconsistent. But I had to pick this one up. This is one I really wanted right away, and then I almost changed my mind about, and then I threw it in the bag at the last second, and here we are. So let's just get into creating this look. I'll show you how I got this look, and then we'll talk about the palette. Alright, so let's dig in. So I don't really think we have a choice but to do another really basic look. I know I've been doing a lot of that lately, but those are my favorites anyway. So I think I'm just going to start with buttercream. I'm just going to take that one in the crease. This is going to be a super neutral, super basic palette. And I should also mention I have already primed with my Milani primer and set it down with some powder, as I do. And the scent of this is like, it's kind of like chocolate, but not quite. I went back and forth on this palette so much. I was dead set on purchasing it, and then it was released, and then I didn't think I was going to at all, and then I just ended up throwing it into my cart when I picked up the new Hourglass foundation. So there's that, and especially because, like everything else, they have recently increased their pricing, but I just hope it means their quality's improving. Okay, I think I'm just going to go into Lick the Bowl now, and these mattes seem to be performing quite nicely. They're a little bit dry. Some of them are a little bit drier on initial swatch, but they seem to be performing nicely on the eyes. I find with Too Faced, it's the shimmers you have to watch out for because they're not all created equal. And I think that, you know, sometimes with Too Faced shimmers, sometimes they're great. Sometimes they're very opaque, very pigmented. And then other times they're more of a topper shade that you're not really expecting it to be a topper shade. Yeah, the mattes are performing nicely. And again, this is going to be a very basic, very neutral palette. Like, you're not going to get a ton of range with this. This is one that I think you'd be interested in if you like to collect the Too Faced tin packaging. Or I'm going to switch out my brush, I think I'm going to take Bless Your Tarte. And I'm just going to really deepen that outer corner. Yeah, this palette is, again, your super basic neutral palette. It's not different than a lot of what Too Faced already has. It's not really different from what's already on the market at all. And I'm going to be completely honest, when working with some of these neutrals, a lot of them are kind of looking really similar. So, I mean, I think this is more geared toward people who maybe just enjoy the Too Faced tin packaging palettes, maybe who enjoy the novelty kind of theme to it. I would also say that perhaps this Too Faced is really creating for makeup lovers who aren't on YouTube, because I think sometimes it's easy to forget that there's like a whole other world of makeup lovers out there that aren't watching YouTube, and maybe they're the ones who love this, and there is nothing wrong with that. I will give credit to these mattes, they're blending nicely. So I do want to see how the shimmers perform with a finger. I also want to see with a brush. Okay, so I think I'm going to take the shade Nice Buns right here. I'm going to take that on a finger. It's a little bit chunky, but I think it looks really pretty. That is very, very pretty. I like that. Okay, so this is one of the very pigmented shimmers, and I went a little overboard. Kind of blend that away, just a clean brush. Okay, this shimmer is very, very pretty. And I do have quite a bit of fallout on my cheek from that shimmer. Okay, so now I'm going to go into that shade with a brush, and I think I made a mistake. I said that shade was called Nice Buns. It's actually called I'm the Dessert. So I'm now going to pick that up with a brush and see how it performs on this side. Okay. Alright, so definitely less intense. Let me see if I can pick it up with a brush. I'm just going to spray it with a little bit of Fix Plus and see how that performs. Okay, it does look really pretty when applied wet. Okay, so that definitely gave me some maximum shine. That was even better than using a finger. So I'm going to add a little bit more to either side. Okay, so definitely do recommend applying that shade with a wet brush. Okay, I'm just going to take a little bit of Ooey Gooey and I'm just going to put that on with a finger. I actually already did it on this eye and then I realized I wasn't recording, so now we'll do it together with this eye. I just felt like, as much as I like that first shade, I just felt like it was a little deeper than I wanted to go today. Okay, I'm going to finish the rest of my makeup and I'll come back and give you my final thoughts. Alright guys, so here is the final look with the new Better Than Chocolate palette. It's not my favorite, but I did just take a little bit of the shade Milk It and I just put that on the inner corner and I thought that was really pretty. I think I'll be able to create some really pretty looks with this palette. It's just that they are going to be all very, very neutral. Let's look at some swatches really, really quickly. I do want to show you guys some swatches. So the first shade in the palette is Milk It, which is again what I put on the inner corner. It's just a very beautiful highlighty shade. It's very, very pretty. And then there is the shade Buttercream, which is just like a very light brown, kind of that perfect transition. It's pretty. Again, not special, but pretty nonetheless. Then we have Gold Digger. The names of some of these shades are truly not so great, but that's fine. I expect nothing less from Too Faced. So that is Gold Digger. Then we have Skinny Dipped. And one thing I feel like about this palette is there seems to be a lot of really similar shades. I feel like they could have given it a little more range than they did, but that's fine. Okay, next we have Ooey Gooey, which is what I ended up topping my entire look with. And this just, when you swatch this, it really doesn't seem to have much pigment. It's pretty. It's very light. Again, that's kind of how I used it, just to lighten up the look that I had going. I just felt the look I had was a little too deep. Okay, next we have Midnight Snack, which is actually a bit more of a purple. I don't think I realized that that's what this was. Okay, it's swatching a little better than I expected. So it's like a deeper purple. I kind of want to try it with the Sugar Rush shade. Then we have Reality Chalk. Some of these shimmers are a little bit more on the chunky side as well. It's another one that's not swatching the best, but it is pretty. It is quite pretty. Then we have Bitter Half. Then we have I'm the Dessert. which I did think was really pretty. And again, these shades are not overly different or unique or anything like that. Some of them are very, very pretty. Okay, then there is Sugar Rush. And it does not swatch well at all, as we can see. Yeah, that barely shows up in a swatch. So then we have Cake My Day, which is another matte brown. Then we have Bite Me. Yay, these names. And that's just a really pretty kind of, it's another transition shade, but that's what I really like. That reminds me of the transition shade in the Natasha Denona Glam Face Palette, which is a shade I love. I just think it's very flattering on me. It's that brown with like a pinky undertone. Okay, then we have Lick the Bowl. And there's a lot of these matte browns that are just really similar. Like it's so similar to this one almost. Okay, then we have Bless Your Tart, which is like a bluish purple. That's really pretty. Maybe I should have used that today. That's really pretty. Then we have the shade Nice Buns. And like, that shade is so similar to this one, which was similar to this one. I don't know. Like it's deeper than this for sure, but so similar to this. Do we need both? I don't know. Okay, then we have What the Fudge. That's pretty. But again, it's pretty similar to this and this. So then we have another matte brown. And that will be the deepest in the palette. It's swatched pretty nicely. And then we have the very last shade in the bottom corner, and it's almost got a green to it. So that is your palette. It's fine. It's got a nice color story, very, very neutral. Okay, so now that we've created a look, we've looked at some swatches, let's talk about my final thoughts on the palette. So Too Faced is a brand that, for the majority of their products are good, but their eyeshadows are very inconsistent. They're very inconsistent. Typically though, when you get their tin packaging, this is their best quality. However, it's still not that great. This does retail for, I believe, $55 US. It was $69 Canadian. And opening the palette up, it definitely does have a chocolatey scent to it. The color story is pretty. It's a very neutral color story with a couple of pops of color. And that's kind of what I like. Personally, that is my makeup taste. I love a good neutral look. Day to day, very neutral. I am not throwing color on my eye during the day. I don't even do it a ton when I'm filming. So a neutral palette is definitely my thing. Is this the best quality palette? No, absolutely not. Is it terrible? Also no. I do think some shades are a little more on the dry side, and there are some that really don't have much pigment. They're maybe more toppery kind of shades. Like Ooey Gooey is definitely, I think, more of a topper. It's very pretty, but I do think it's more of a topper. Sugar Rush, I think, might also be more of a topper. I'm very curious to play with it. I should have played with it today, but I wanted to play on the safe side. And then this one's quite pretty. I mean, looking at these shimmers, you don't know what you're gonna get. You don't know if you're gonna get an opaque shimmer or if you're gonna get a topper. So that's just something that I like to draw attention to. It's not the best quality. It's also not a bad palette. And I actually do really think the color story is really, really pretty. I do think it is way overpriced. Do you have most of these shades in your palette or in your collection already? More than likely. More than likely, especially if you're a neutral lover. However, if you're somebody who just really likes the Too Faced kind of novelty palettes, these tin packaging, food themed kind of palettes that they release every year, perhaps you would really, really like this. I think this actually kind of reminded me quite a bit of the Cinnamon Swirl palette from last year, which I didn't pick up. If you have that one, you might actually already have a lot of what's here, but overall, this is fine. I'm going to use it. I'm going to enjoy it. Is it going to be my favorite? No. No, definitely not. If you really like this color story, if you're just a fan of these types of palettes from Too Faced, then you're not going to hate this. I think you might like it quite a bit. It's just that I cannot recommend paying full price. I know they've recently increased the price, and that's kind of standard for everything across the board right now. So I get that, but I would not pay full price for this. I would wait for a sale, whether it be the Sephora sale or a Black Friday sale or some sort of sale. I cannot recommend buying this at full price, given that it is $69 Canadian. For $20 more, I can get a Patrick Ta palette, which is top-notch quality. I can get a Natasha Denona midi palette, which is also top-notch quality. You guys know that's my favorite formula. So this isn't bad. I just don't think it's worth the price tag that's on it. So if you want it, if you like the color story, if you like these palettes, if you like Too Faced, I think you'll really like this. I just think you should wait for a sale, if that makes sense. I did find the shimmers applied the very best with a wet brush. A finger is always the way to go for me. And applying with a finger did work really well with these, but I found the wet brush gave me the very best payoff. So I will say that the mattes perfectly fine. The shimmers are what is really inconsistent. Some of the mattes do swatch pretty, do seem a little bit dry on swatch. I really prefer buttery matte shades. These aren't necessarily that, but they perform well, and that's really all that matters. And then just the shimmers are a little inconsistent, but overall it's fine. It's perfectly fine. It's cute. I like the scent. I like the theme. I think it's pretty. I really do enjoy the color story. I do think we have a lot of redundancies. So I do think they could have put a little bit more shade range in there just with the amount of matte browns. I think there could have been somehow a little bit more range. That's all. Overall, not a bad palette. I cannot recommend paying full price for it, but I'm not upset that I have it. So that is it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. Let me know down below if you're thinking of picking this one up. Was this video helpful? I really, really hope so. And if you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. And that is it for me today. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!